What is up, my fellow assassins? I'm Mac, aka the Energy King, and today we have a custom commander build for you, featuring Altaïr Ibn-La'Ahad. So I'm calling this deck Distant Memories. It focuses on Altaïr. So Altaïr is a human assassin. He's a 3/3 with first strike. Whenever he attacks, you are going to exile an assassin from your grave with a memory counter on it. And then you get to basically create token copies of every creature you own in exile with memory counters on them, tapped and attacking. So we're definitely going to be focused on kind of filling our grave with assassins. We have a couple other cards that aren't assassins in terms of our creature base to either, increase the number of tokens we're creating or generate value in some other way. But let's go over this list. We'll start off with our powerful assassins. Starting off the list of powerful assassins, we have Arno Dorian. So Arno Dorian is a 4-cost 3/3 with Death Touch. They also have that other assassins we control get +2/+0, so they are going to buff most, if not all, of our field. They also can be disguised, but we really don't care about that. It is a nice way to kind of get them out like a little cheaper, but it's not really what we're here for. Following up Arno Dorian, we have Aya of Alexandria. So this is another Assassin's Creed assassin for us. They are a 4-cost 4/3 with Menace and Lifelink. Whenever a historic creature we control deals damage to a player, we're going to create a 1/1 token assassin. It also has Menace, these tokens. So really just a nice way to kind of protect our board, right? For the most part, we're looking to swing out, and we're swinging out fast, which leaves us a little vulnerable to the crackback. And creatures like Aya of Alexandria are really gonna protect our board state, right? We're gonna have some chump blockers at the very least. Following her up, we have another Assassin's Creed assassin in the form of Desmond Miles. So Desmond is a 2-cost 1/3 with Menace. He does get +1/+0 for each other assassin you control, as well as each other assassin in your grave. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you get to Surveil X, where X is the damage he dealt. So, super strong, a good way to kind of refill our graveyard, and just really fuel our commander moving forward. Following up Desmond, we have Mari, the Killing Quill. This is from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. They're a 3/2 vampire assassin for 3. So whenever an opponent creature dies, we're going to exile it instead of letting it go to the grave, which is already nice. A little bit of graveyard hate. They're going to get exiled with a hit counter. And whenever any of our assassins, manage to deal combat damage, we get to remove a hit counter from one of those exiled cards, draw some cards, create some treasures. It's just good value. Massacre Girl, Known Killer follows that up. So they are a nice little 4/4 with Menace. Gives all of our creatures Wither. So we're getting around that indestructibility. And even if they just chump block with something that's quite large, right? They're like, oh, I'm willing to kind of trade this. It's cool, I am permanently crippling your creature. Merciless Harlequin follows that up. This is a 3-cost 2/1, so kind of bad stats. You could free running it in for 2 if you've dealt some damage. But whenever it enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card and lose a life, right? I'm willing to pay a life to draw a card. And if we get to exile this with our commander, we're going to draw 1 extra card a turn every time we attack. So, that's good value. Murderous Redcap. So Murderous Redcap is a 2/2 for 4, which seems like bad value. It kind of is. But whenever it enters the battlefield, you do get to deal damage to any target equal to its power. Starts off as 2, but we do have that buff from earlier. So it could be 4 damage. And that's going to lead to repeated pings every time we attack. So I think that kind of makes up for it. Nut Control follows that up. And this is another one that seems initially like kind of bad value, right? It's a 4-cost 2/1 first striker. But whenever it enters the battlefield, you do get to destroy a target non-artifact, non-black creature, and that creature can't be regenerated. So again, we're looking to really get this guy into exile with a memory counter, and just keep abusing that ETB trigger for ourselves. Olivia, Opulent Outlaw, is going to follow him up. So they are a flying lifelinking 3/3 for 4. So actually not bad value. And whenever any of our assassins deal combat damage to a player, we're going to generate some treasure. This can actually go infinite with another card in the deck, which we'll go over a little bit later. Queen Marchesa follows that up. They are a 3/3 Death Toucher for 4 mana. So again, not bad value. Whenever they enter the battlefield, we do get to become Monarch, right? We're keeping our hand full. All this card draw value is going to keep us ahead of the game. If we happen to play the actual copy, and not just do the exile copies for fun, at our upkeep, if an opponent happens to be the Monarch, we'll get an Assassin token, and if not, that's also fine. Raffine's Silencer follows up Queen Marchesa. They are a 1/1 for 3, which again feels kind of like bad value, but again, we're trying to cheat these mana values by putting these creatures into the grave directly, cheat them back. But when they enter the battlefield, they do get to connive, so this is another way to kind of fill our grave with even more assassins. And if they die, we do get to kind of like do another hit, where we're -Xing a creature our opponent controls based on his power. Ravenloft Adventurer. So Ravenloft Adventurer is a 3/4 for 4. When it enters, we are going to take the initiative. So I think this is the only instance of doing dungeon things in this deck, but I think that the initiative dungeon is actually pretty good. So after a mere, 5 ETBs off this, which isn't that hard to achieve for us, we're going to complete that dungeon. The final stage is really powerful. All the stages along the way are honestly kind of powerful. But also, if a creature an opponent controls would die, they get exiled instead with a hit counter. So this is another instance of those hit counters. And whenever it attacks, if we've completed the dungeon, the defending player loses 1 life for each card they own in exile with a hit counter. So we're not going to get that on attack trigger if we're cheating them back with our commander. That's not really what they're here for. They're really here for that taking of the initiative. Ruthless Lawbringer. So Ruthless Lawbringer is another assassin. It's a 3/2 for 3. Whenever they enter the battlefield, we can sacrifice another creature, so we can't sacrifice themselves to this effect, but that's okay. When we do, we get to destroy a target non-land permanent. So if there's like a weak creature that also ETB'd off of our, commander attacking, their ETB goes off, we resolve it, cool, they've done their job, we can now sacrifice them and just blow up something of our opponents. Pretty strong. Thorn of the Black Rose is honestly just like a secondary, hey, I want to make sure I'm still Monarch sort of card for us. Pretty decent though. So they are a 1/3 Death Toucher for 4. When they enter the battlefield, we become Monarch. I think you could probably swap them out if you really wanted to for something that deals more damage. This is more here for card draw. Undercity Eliminator. So Undercity Eliminator is a 3/3 for 5. When they ETB, you can sacrifice an artifact or a creature to exile a creature an opponent controls. So I really feel like us filling up our grave with these kind of creatures, right? They ETB. If the 3 damage is less important than exiling a potential blocker, we can sacrifice them to their own effect. If the 3 damage is better than like another tiny creature that already got an ETB off for us, we can sacrifice, that creature instead. Either way, it's all good. Unscrupulous Agent. So Unscrupulous Agent is a 1/1 for 2. Not great value, but when the ETB, an opponent does have to exile a card from their hand. So we are really removing options. We're slowing them down. Unscrupulous Contractor is here to, again, kind of keep our hand full. When they enter the battlefield, we can sacrifice a creature. When we do, target player, ideally us, it could be like just to like finish someone off, I suppose, but they're going to draw 2, lose 2. And last up, for powerful assassins we've included in this deck, is Vein Ripper. So Vein Ripper is a 6/5 flyer for 6. They have Ward, sacrifice a creature, and whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 and we gain 2. So that's super strong, right? It's gonna deter them from wanting to chump block in some instances. But even if they do, right, they're trading, that's fine. We're gaining life, they're losing life. Vein Ripper is top tier in this deck. Now, of course, we're looking for ways to get our graveyard full of assassins. How are we doing it? Well, we have a couple different ways. We're going to start off with one of my personal favorites because it's repeatable, and that's Auric Loremage. Auric Loremage is a 3/3 for 4. You can tap him, look through your library, throw anything you want into your grave if it happens to be an instant or sorcery. Spoilers, it won't be. He gets a little bigger, but we don't care about that. We're looking to throw assassins into our graveyard. Following him up is another personal favorite, which is just Entomb on a body. Basically a second copy of Entomb, but it's the Vile Entomber. So Vile Entomber is a 2/2 for 4. When they enter the battlefield, we get to look for any card and just throw it into our grave. Again, we're looking for these big assassins that we want to cheat out kind of early and cheat out often. In a similar vein, we have Buried Alive. Just reprinted in Modern Horizons 3, so it's actually super cheap to pick up right now. 3 cost, look for 3 creatures, put them all in the grave. Faithless Looting is going to follow that up. So not quite a tutored graveyard dump, but definitely a way to dump assassins from our hand, just into the grave, get them out of here. So you know it, you love it. We're going to draw 2, discard 2, we could flash it back. Back to kind of more of a tutory vibe, we have Unmarked Grave. So this does specifically search for non-legendaries, but there are some non-legendary assassins that we could easily dump into the grave and really still get some good value from. Demand Answers is kind of in a similar vein to that Faithless Looting. So it's a 2-cost instant. We're going to either sacrifice an artifact or discard a card, and we're going to draw 2 cards. Entomb we mentioned earlier, but it is a 1-cost instant. We're going to look for any card and just throw it into the grave. It's going to be an assassin. We're going to cheat that assassin back. Village Rites, honestly, kind of like still fits this theme. Right, we're going to sacrifice a creature. That creature will likely be one of our assassins that we want to recur and like really abuse those ETBs. We're going to draw some cards off of it. As far as lands go, we are running the 3 Surveil lands for this deck. So that's going to be Elegant Parlor, Precocious Theater, and Shadowy Backstreet. How are we really going to win? And that is Repeated Combat. Repeated Combat is the name of the game, and we have a couple ways of getting there. As a non-assassin in the deck, we are running Aurelia, the War Leader. So they are a 3/4 for 6. They have Flying, Vigilance, and Haste. And whenever they attack for the first time each turn, we do get to untap all of our creatures and have an additional combat phase. Not necessarily extra combat, but kind of in a similar vein, we have Isshin Two Heavens as 1. Just to double up our commander's attack trigger if we have a bunch of assassins in the grave. We'd love to get back more than 1 extra per turn. Morag, Fury of Akum. So Morag, Fury of Akum is a nice little 6-cost 6/6. Each of our creatures are going to get +1/+0 for each time that it attacked this turn. And then it has landfall, so we save our lands for main phase 2. Boom, extra combat. Roaming Throne is just another sort of doubling effect for us, so we are going to just again kind of cheat back 2 assassins per turn instead of just 1. Relentless Assault. So Relentless Assault is a 4-cost sorcery. Lets us untap all of our creatures, have an extra combat, followed by an extra main phase. Seize the Day is going to follow that up. Super similar, only we actually have the ability to flash it back as well, so it's a little more costly, but still pretty budget. So for 4 mana, we're going to untap a single creature. After this, there's an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase. The creature we obviously want to untap is just our commander, because him attacking is really what's giving us all this value. You can also flash it back for 3 mana. And then, of course, the way to go infinite with all those treasures we're making from earlier is Aggravated Assault. Oh, did I deal at least 5 damage to a player? Cool. I now have an extra combat step. Infinite Combat is going to lead us to victory pretty much immediately, and it is a chef's kiss moment. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wow, it sounds like our commander is super, important to this strat. How are we protecting them? Well, we have a couple different ways of doing it. We're going to start off with a new recent favorite of mine. It's actually super old school. It's Cover of Darkness. So, Cover of Darkness enters, you choose a creature type. We're going to choose Assassins. Creatures of the chosen type have fear. So now, most opponents can't even block our creatures. So, we're able to attack pretty freely and not have to worry about anything. We're going to follow that up with a Whisper Silk Cloak, which not only makes our commander unblockable, but also gives them Shroud. In a similar vein, we are also running the Swiftfoot Boots. The Hexproof is kind of what we're here for. The Haste is a nice little bonus. Mithril Coat, so a flashable equipment. It'll auto-equip to our commander and makes them indestructible. And last of the protection for our commander is Lightning Greaves. You know it, you love it. Cost 2 to play, 0 to equip, and that creature has Haste and Shroud. We're of course also running Teferi's Protection. We're just gonna phase out. You can't touch us. We're good. We could also use Akroma's Will defensively to kind of protect our whole board. It's definitely an offensive spell, and one that could easily just go ahead and finish that game for us. So, we're making tokens. Hear me out now. Making tokens. You know what these tokens want? They want the bat, right? The Mirkwood Bats. So whenever we create or sacrifice a token, each opponent is going to lose 1 life. Just a nice little way of being like, hey, all these extra combats I'm taking, even if you somehow have a way to prevent damage, I'd be shocked if you have a way of preventing just loss of life. Sticking with that token strat, we have Mondrak Glory Dominus to increase the number of tokens we're generating, as well as Ogre Tack, Deepest Foundation. Just more. And last of our creature token kind of matters things, we have the Master Multiplied. Master Multiplied is actually really good in this deck. So they have Myriad, which is not really what's important here. They do have the Legend rule doesn't apply to creature tokens we control. We love this. And triggered abilities cannot cause us to sacrifice or exile creature tokens we control, which our commander's ability would want us to. This is going to let us keep all of our creatures forever. All those tokens we create every turn, they're not going anywhere. They're sticking around. In a similar vein, we're also running Sundial of the Infinite, a 2-cost artifact where we could pay 1 and tap it to just end the turn. So, with the triggered ability to exile all of our tokens on the stack, we activate Sundial of the Infinite, it wipes the stack and just ends the turn immediately, and bam, we have value. And we have 2 cards left to kind of go over, and those are really just here to deal out a little bit of extra damage for us creating all these tokens every turn. Those being Impact Tremors, which is going to deal 1 damage each time a creature ETBs for us, as well as War Leader's Call, which is going to buff all of our creatures, as well as deal 1 damage to each opponent every time a creature ETBs. But guys, that is the Distant Memories custom build. There are definitely cards I didn't go over, so definitely check out the full list in the, there's a link in the description to it down below. If you enjoyed this video, if you felt like you got a little bit of value out of it, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell to make sure you never miss an episode. I'm Mech, aka the Energy King, and until next time, good luck with your builds.